Tonight, drift peacefully into sleep as we follow a silver-furred cat through the timeless streets of Paris. From hidden garden nooks to ancient rooftops, experience the eternal city through the quiet eyes of its most graceful observer. Allow yourself to be carried along cobblestone streets and tranquil courtyards as day gently transforms into night. Your journey with our Parisian feline guide begins now. The gentle warmth of dawn caresses my silver fur as I slowly open my eyes to greet another Parisian morning. My body unfurls from its tight sleeping ball with languid stretches that send ripples of contentment through my awakening muscles. The hidden garden nook that has served as my bed is nestled between ancient stone walls draped with climbing jasmine, its sweet fragrance mingling with the earthy scent of morning dew. Soft tendrils of mist hover just above the cobblestones, dancing slowly in the first light of day. I lie still for many long moments, simply allowing my senses to attune to the awakening world around me. The distant chime of church bells flows across the rooftops like honey, golden and rich, marking 6 o'clock with melodious precision. My whiskers twitch slightly as they sense the subtle shifts in the morning air. The gentle currents that carry stories from across the sleeping city. The garden remains shrouded in cool shadows while the tops of buildings begin to glow with amber light, the sun's gentle greeting to the eternal city. My breathing remains slow and deep as I continue to rest, my body heavy against the warm stone that has absorbed yesterday's sunshine. There is no hurry in my world, no need to rush toward the day's activities. I am a cat of Paris, a creature of leisure and contemplation, of patient observation and unhurried movement. The weight of my paws against the ground feels pleasantly substantial, connecting me to this ancient place of stone and history and quiet beauty. The soft rustling of leaves above creates a gentle lullaby, a whispered conversation between nature and the mild morning breeze. My ears rotate slightly to capture the subtle sounds of early birds greeting the day with tentative chirps and melodious trills. The distant rumble of early delivery trucks mingles with the metallic clatter of shopkeepers raising their shutters, familiar rhythms that have marked mornings in this quarter for countless years. These sounds drift through my consciousness like passing clouds, noted but not disturbing my tranquil state. The comforting weight of my body seems to sink deeper into the stone beneath me as my muscles continue to release the last vestiges of sleep. My breathing follows a slow, regular pattern that matches the unhurried pace of the awakening city. The tip of my tail occasionally twitches, the only movement in my otherwise still form. The scent of freshly baked bread begins to waft through the air, a warm and yeasty perfume that signals the start of the baker's day on the rue nearby. When at last I decide to rise, the movement is slow and deliberate, a careful realignment of limbs and balance. Each paw finds its place with precision, the soft pads connecting with the cool stone in a familiar greeting. I arch my back in a deep stretch that begins at my nose and ripples all the way to the tip of my gently curving tail. My whiskers spread wide as I open my mouth in a silent yawn that seems to expand time itself. The sensation of stretching travels through my body like a gentle wave, awakening muscles that have rested through the quiet night. The garden that has sheltered my sleep is a hidden treasure known to few, a secret pocket of green tucked between old buildings whose walls tell stories centuries old. Morning light now filters through the leaves of the single chestnut tree, creating dappled patterns that shift and sway with hypnotic gentleness. The weathered stone bench bears silent witness to my morning ritual, its surface worn smooth by generations of those seeking quiet refuge. Ancient ivy clings to the walls, having slowly claimed the stonework over decades of patient growth. I move toward the small fountain whose gentle trickle has provided background music to my rest. The water catches the early light, transforming simple drops into momentary diamonds that sparkle before returning to the small pool below. I lower my head to drink, feeling the cool liquid against my tongue, refreshing and pure. The sensation of water sliding down my throat brings a deeper awakening to my senses, a pleasant transition from the depths of sleep to conscious awareness. With unhurried steps, I make my way to the narrow gap in the wall that serves as my private entrance and exit to the sanctuary. The stone feels cool and familiar against my fur as I slip through the opening, a perfect fit for my lithe form. Beyond lies the awakening street, still quiet in these early hours but beginning to stir with the first movements of Parisian life. My whiskers brush the edges of the gap, sending subtle sensations to my brain that confirm there is ample space for my passage. The cobblestones of the narrow street feel different beneath my paws, their uneven surfaces creating a pleasant massage with each careful step. The street remains in shadow, the buildings too tall for early sunlight to reach this far down. The air here carries different scents: coffee brewing, pastries baking, the faint mustiness of ancient stone, and the ever-present undercurrent of the Seine flowing nearby. These scents form an olfactory map more detailed than any human could comprehend, a rich tapestry of information about the day that is beginning to unfold. I pause at the corner where two narrow streets meet, sitting in perfect stillness to observe the gradual awakening of my domain. An early street sweeper moves with rhythmic motions, his broom making a soft scratching sound against the cobblestones. The gentle sway of his movements follows a pattern as old as the city itself, a dance of maintenance and care that has been performed on these streets for generations. His familiar figure has been part of my mornings for many seasons, his weathered face as much a fixture of this place as the buildings themselves. A delivery van moves slowly down the narrow street, the driver navigating with the careful precision that these ancient passages demand. The sound of its engine creates a low vibration that I can feel through the stones beneath my paws. The baker emerges briefly from his shop to accept crates of fresh ingredients, his white apron and flour-dusted hands bright against the muted tones of early morning. Steam escapes from the bakery door, carrying the intoxicating scent of fresh baguettes and croissants still warm from the oven. I watch these morning rituals with half-closed eyes, my tail curled neatly around my paws in a pose of perfect feline composure. There is comfort in these patterns, these daily rhythms that have continued largely unchanged for decades. The slow pace of these early hours matches my own unhurried nature, a shared appreciation for the gentle unfolding of each day. The cool morning air ruffles my fur slightly, a pleasant sensation against my skin that keeps me alert yet relaxed. When the baker returns inside, I rise again and continue my morning journey through the gradually awakening streets. My path follows familiar routes, pathways I have traveled countless times through this ancient neighborhood. Each step is placed with deliberate care, my paws finding the smoothest parts of the uneven cobblestones through years of learned experience. My body moves with fluid grace, muscles working in perfect harmony to create motion that is both efficient and beautiful. The neighborhood of Saint-Germain embraces me as I walk its winding streets, its character changing subtly with the growing light. The buildings rise on either side, their weathered facades telling stories of centuries past, of revolutions and romances, of artists and philosophers who walked these same paths. Their balconies with wrought iron railings hang above, some adorned with cascading flowers that add splashes of color to the weathered stone. Shutters begin to open as residents greet the day, the wooden panels folding back with creaks and sighs that speak of age and constant use. I turn down a narrower passageway where sunlight has just begun to slant between the buildings, creating a warm path that invites my passage. The light feels wonderful against my fur, a gentle caress that brings heightened awareness to each individual hair. In this golden pathway, dust motes dance and swirl, made visible by the angled light in a display of nature's simple beauty. The stone beneath my paws begins to absorb the sun's warmth. The temperature changing subtly with each step, I take from shadow into light. This passage opens to a small plaza where the first cafe workers are setting out tables and chairs with metallic scrapes and measured movements. The ritual preparation for the day's business follows precisely the same pattern as yesterday and all days before. A waiter pauses to stretch his back, his face tilted upward to catch a moment of early sunshine before returning to his tasks. The chairs form neat rows along the building's edge, awaiting the customers who will come to sip coffee and watch the world pass by. I find a perfect corner where shadow and sunlight meet, settling myself against a warm wall to observe this gradual unfolding of the day. My breathing slows again as I find a comfortable position, my body conforming perfectly to the contours of the stone beneath me. From this vantage point, I can watch without being noticed. A silver observer whose presence registers only at the edges of human awareness. The sun continues its slow climb, gradually warming my fur and the stones around me with its gentle touch. The cafe owner emerges to inspect the preparations, his experienced eyes noting every detail with professional precision. He adjusts a chair here, repositions an ashtray there, ensuring that everything meets his exacting standards. His movements are efficient yet unhurried, the motions of someone who has performed these same actions thousands of times before. When he notices me watching from my corner, he offers a slight nod of acknowledgement, a small gesture that recognizes our shared territory and mutual respect. The first customers begin to arrive, their footsteps breaking the relative quiet of the early morning. They move with the slightly hurried pace of those with destinations and appointments, their presence changing the energy of the plaza. Conversations create a gentle murmur that rises and falls like ocean waves, individual words indistinguishable, but the rhythm familiar and soothing. The clinking of cups and saucers adds a delicate percussion to this morning's symphony, bright notes that punctuate the deeper tones of human voices. I remain perfectly still in my chosen spot, an island of calm amid the growing activity. My eyes narrow to comfortable slits that allow me to observe while appearing to doze. The sunlight continues its slow expansion across the plaza, gradually diminishing the shadows as morning progresses toward midday. The warmth seeps deeper into my muscles, creating a pleasant heaviness that encourages extended rest. My breathing follows a slow, regular pattern that matches the unhurried pace of the morning. A young woman at a nearby table drops a small piece of croissant, the flaky morsel landing just within my field of vision. Though I register its presence, I make no immediate move, patience being one of my most refined qualities. Only when her attention has turned elsewhere do I rise with fluid grace and approach the unexpected offering. The buttery scent rises to greet my sensitive nose, a temptation too pleasant to resist. I delicately consume this small breakfast, savoring the rich flavor that spreads across my tongue. With my morning meal complete, I continue my journey through awakening Paris, moving from the lively plaza back to quieter side streets. The narrower passages offer a different kind of peace, one found in ancient walls and the absence of crowds. My paws make no sound as I walk these familiar routes, a silent presence moving through spaces unchanged for centuries. The buildings lean slightly toward each other overhead, creating the sense of walking through a stone canyon carved by time rather than water. I pause beside a small fountain built into a wall, its gentle trickle creating a pleasant background sound that masks the more distant noise of the city. The water emerges from the mouth of a carved stone face, its features softened by decades of flowing liquid. Small green plants have found purchase in the cracks between stones, their tenacious presence a reminder of nature's patience. I watch the play of light on the water's surface, the patterns continuously forming and dissolving in never-repeating variations. A doorway stands slightly ajar nearby, revealing glimpses of a courtyard beyond where potted plants create a private garden. The scent of coffee drifts from within, accompanied by the soft murmur of a radio playing classical music. From my position, I can see an elderly man moving slowly among his plants, touching leaves and blossoms with gentle fingers. His unhurried movements mirror my own appreciation for deliberate actions and careful observation. Though he does not see me, we share this moment of morning tranquility, two beings content in their separate but parallel activities. I continue onward, my path winding toward the Seine whose flowing presence forms the heart of this ancient city. The streets begin to slope gently downward as I approach the river, a subtle change that my sensitive paws detect with each step. More people move along these routes now, their pace quickening as morning advances. Shop doors stand open, releasing scents of cheese and wine, of leather and perfume, of books whose pages carry the musty sweetness of knowledge and imagination. These aromas layer upon each other, creating an olfactory portrait of a street that has served as marketplace and meeting place for centuries. The sun has now climbed higher in the Parisian sky, casting shorter shadows across the ancient cobblestones beneath my paws. The gentle warmth of midday surrounds me like an invisible embrace as I make my way toward the flowing heart of the city. The Seine comes into view as I emerge from a narrow street, its waters capturing and reflecting the light in countless shifting patterns. The broad expanse of the river moves with unhurried purpose, carrying boats and reflections and centuries of stories past the enduring stone witnesses that line its banks. I find a perfect spot on a low wall overlooking the water, a sun-warmed perch that offers both comfort and an excellent vantage point. Settling myself with feline precision, I arrange my limbs in a position of perfect balance and ease. The stone beneath me has absorbed hours of sunshine, its warmth seeping pleasantly into my fur and muscles. From here, I can observe both the flowing water and the passing parade of humans who stroll along the river bank, all while remaining just beyond their immediate notice. The rhythmic lapping of water against the stone embankment creates a soothing background rhythm to the midday tableau. Small waves form and dissolve in endless succession, never exactly the same yet following patterns as old as water itself. Sunlight dances across the surface, creating momentary sparkles that appear and vanish like fleeting thoughts. A boat passes slowly, its wake expanding in perfect symmetrical curves that eventually reach the wall below my resting place. Tourists and locals alike move along the pathway beneath my elevated position, their pace unhurried in this place where time seems to flow differently. Conversations drift upward in fragments, a multilingual tapestry of sounds that weaves through the gentle air currents. A couple pauses to embrace, their figures creating a single silhouette against the shimmering water. An artist has set up an easel nearby, his brush moving with deliberate strokes as he attempts to capture on canvas what my eyes absorb without effort. My whiskers occasionally twitch in response to subtle changes in the air, sensitive instruments detecting variations too slight for human perception. The scent of the river mingles with those of nearby cafes, of perfume worn by passing women, of the distinctive mustiness of old stone warmed by summer sun. These olfactory notes combine into a symphony of information, telling stories of where people have been, of food being prepared, of flowers blooming in window boxes high above the street. I close my eyes halfway, entering that perfect state between alertness and relaxation that we cats have mastered over thousands of years. The sounds and scents and sensations continue to flow through my awareness, registered but not requiring response. My breathing slows to match the unhurried rhythm of the river, deep and regular and perfectly content. The gentle rise and fall of my ribcage becomes a meditation, a physical expression of present moment peace. The artist working nearby speaks softly to another who has paused to watch his progress, their words drifting up to my attentive ears. They discuss light and shadow, the challenge of capturing water's constant movement, the particular quality of Parisian sunlight that has drawn painters to these banks for centuries. Their conversation flows with the same gentle cadence as the river itself, thoughtful pauses punctuating observations shared between fellow appreciators of beauty. The soft scratch of brush against canvas creates a pleasant counterpoint to their voiced reflections. A small bird lands nearby, hopping along the wall with quick darting movements that contrast with my perfect stillness. Though some primitive instinct notes its presence, I make no move to chase or disturb its progress. We share this sun-warmed space in a moment of peaceful coexistence, each following our nature without interference. The bird finds a crumb left by previous human visitors, pecks at it briefly, then flies away with a flutter of wings that barely registers against the background sounds of the flowing city. When at last I decide to move again, the transition from rest to motion happens with fluid grace. My muscles respond to intention without apparent effort, a perfect coordination of sinew and bone refined through evolutionary design. I stretch thoroughly, extending each limb in succession with deliberate attention to the pleasant sensation of muscles lengthening. My claws extend briefly to grip the stone, then retract as I prepare to continue my midday journey along the river's edge. I follow a path known to few humans, a narrow ledge that runs closer to the water and offers a different perspective on the flowing Seine. From this lower vantage point, the sounds of the river become more prominent. The gentle lapping of water against ancient stone more immediate and soothing. The cooler air near the water's surface carries different scents: the slightly mineral smell of wet stone, the green aroma of water plants, the indefinable essence of the river itself that has remained constant while civilizations rose and fell along its banks. My passage along this hidden way requires perfect balance and precise placement of each paw, skills that come as naturally to me as breathing. The narrow ledge presents no challenge to one who has spent a lifetime navigating the varied terrain of the city. Occasionally spray from a passing boat creates a fine mist that settles on my fur, a refreshing coolness against the growing warmth of the day. I pause occasionally to observe the underside of bridges whose grand arches have spanned this water for centuries, their stone surfaces revealing details invisible from above. A group of pigeons has gathered on a broader section of the embankment, their soft cooing creating a gentle background murmur. They move aside respectfully as I approach, acknowledging my passage without alarm or excessive movement. The relationship between our species in this city is one of long-established understanding, a mutual recognition of shared territory and differing natures. Their feathers catch the sunlight as they shift position, revealing iridescent patches of purple and green among the predominant gray. I continue past the Isle de la Cité where Notre Dame stands in patient majesty, her weathered stone facade reflecting centuries of watching over the flowing life of Paris. Even from my lower perspective, her presence dominates this section of the river, a monument to human aspiration and endurance. The cathedral's shadows extend across the water, creating cooler patches that offer momentary relief from the strengthening midday sun. The sounds of reconstruction occasionally drift downward, the careful work of restoring what fire has damaged proceeding with appropriate reverence for what has stood for over 800 years. Finding a series of stone steps that lead upward, I return to the upper level of the embankment where humans stroll and rest and contemplate. The transition between levels is made with unhurried precision, each step placed with the careful attention that has kept me safe through years of urban exploration. Upon reaching the top, I pause to reorient myself to this more populated space, noting the increased activity that midday has brought to the riverside paths. My whiskers extend fully sensitive instruments gathering data about this changed environment. Nearby, a bookseller has arranged his wares in the distinctive green boxes that have lined the Seine for generations. The scent of old paper and leather bindings drifts from these treasure chests of words and ideas, a fragrance both musty and sweet that speaks of knowledge preserved. The elderly vendor sits on a folding chair, his attention divided between a book in his lap and the occasional browsers who stop to examine his collection. His weathered hands turn pages with gentle reverence, a lifetime of handling these fragile repositories of human thought evident in every careful movement. I approach his station with deliberate steps, my presence announced by the subtle shifting of his attention from page to surroundings. We have known each other for many seasons, this keeper of books and I, a relationship built on mutual respect and quiet companionship. Without looking directly at me, he reaches into his pocket and places a small morsel of cheese on the ground nearby, an offering that acknowledges our established routine. The cheese is firm and sharp, its distinctive scent rising to meet my investigating nose. After accepting his offering with delicate precision, I settle near his feet in a patch of dappled shade. The position allows me to observe the passing parade of humanity while remaining in the comfortable periphery of the bookseller's familiar presence. He returns to his reading, occasionally murmuring phrases aloud in a voice meant only for himself and perhaps for me. The words flow in rhythmic French, poetry whose meaning lies as much in the cadence as in the definitions. His voice has the slightly rough quality that comes with age and cigarettes, a texture that adds character to the verses he recites. The midday warmth encourages a period of extended rest, my body finding perfect comfort in the small space between book boxes. The bookseller's occasional movements and the distant sounds of river traffic form a soothing backdrop to my deepening relaxation. My breathing slows to match this peaceful moment, each inhale bringing sense of water and stone, of paper and humanity, of the countless interwoven elements that make up this city that has been my home for all my 9 lives. My muscles release any remaining tension, surrendering to the perfect contentment of present moment existence. Time flows differently in this state of feline meditation, measured not in minutes but in heartbeats and breaths, and the subtle shifting of sunlight through leaves. The shadow patterns on the stone beneath me gradually change position as the sun continues its arc across the Parisian sky. Occasional footsteps approach and recede as people stop to browse the bookseller's collection, their presence registered but not disturbing my tranquil repose. Conversations drift through my awareness like clouds across the sky, noted but not requiring attention. A young couple lingers nearby, speaking softly in Italian as they examine a book of photographs. Their voices create a melodic counterpoint to the French conversations that predominate along the embankment. The musical quality of their language adds another layer to the ambient soundscape of this riverside retreat. They select a volume and complete their purchase with smiles and gestures that transcend language barriers. A small human connection formed over the shared appreciation of images and memories preserved on paper. The bookseller rises occasionally to rearrange his display or assist a customer, his movements deliberate and unhurried as befits one who has found his place. In the world, when he returns to his seat, he often pauses to acknowledge my continued presence with a gentle word or brief touch to my extended paw. These small interactions require no response beyond a slow blink of appreciation, a feline expression of contentment and trust. Our companionable silence resumes, two beings comfortable enough in each other's presence to require no conversation. As midday transitions toward afternoon, the quality of light begins its subtle shift toward the golden tones that Paris wears so beautifully. The angle of shadows lengthens almost imperceptibly, a gradual change that my sensitive perception notes even in deepest rest. The flow of people along the embankment changes character as well, the purposeful strides of morning giving way to the more leisurely pace of those with time to appreciate the beauty of the eternal city. More artists have set up their easels along the river's edge, each seeking to capture on canvas what can truly only be experienced through all the senses. When I finally rise from my extended rest, each muscle responds with fluid grace, remembering its purpose without conscious directive. I stretch thoroughly, front legs extending forward while my back arches in a perfect curve of feline flexibility. The sensation of stretching sends pleasant ripples of awakening through my body, a gentle transition from deep relaxation to renewed awareness. The bookseller acknowledges my movement with a slight nod, our silent communication requiring no words to convey mutual understanding. With a final gentle brush against the weathered wood of the book boxes, I take my leave of this peaceful interlude. My path now turns back toward the heart of the left bank, away from the river and into the labyrinth of streets that make up the Latin Quarter. The transition from open riverbank to narrow passages brings a change in atmosphere, the air between close-set buildings holding different scents and sounds. These ancient streets have witnessed centuries of scholars and artists, revolutionaries and lovers, their stories somehow preserved in the very stones that line the winding ways. The afternoon light filters down between tall buildings in golden shafts that illuminate patches of cobblestone with warm radiance. The narrow streets of the Latin Quarter embrace me as I continue my journey, their winding paths offering new discoveries even to one who has walked them countless times. The buildings lean toward each other overhead, their upper stories seeming almost to touch, creating the sense of moving through a maze of stone and history. My paws find their way with familiar ease over the uneven surfaces worn smooth by centuries of passage. The air here carries the mingled scents of countless restaurants preparing for evening service, spices and herbs combining in an aromatic tapestry that changes subtly from one street to the next. Steam rises from kitchen windows, carrying with it the essence of simmering sauces and baking bread. These scents tell stories of cultural traditions maintained through generations, of recipes passed down through families, of the universal human pleasure in shared meals. My sensitive nose distinguishes each component while appreciating the harmonious whole they create together. Students move through these streets in greater numbers than elsewhere in the city, their youthful energy a constant presence in this quarter that has housed places of learning for nearly 1,000 years. Their conversations flow around me as I navigate between their hurrying feet, fragments of discussion about philosophy and literature, science and politics, the eternal preoccupations of those engaged in the pursuit of knowledge. Notebooks and now electronic devices contain the same questions that have been considered in these same streets since medieval times, a continuity that transcends changes in fashion and technology. I find a perfect spot in a recessed doorway, a quiet vantage point from which to observe the flowing life of the afternoon. The stone step has absorbed hours of sunshine, offering a warm place to rest and contemplate. From here, I can watch the passing parade of humanity while remaining slightly removed, a silent witness to the countless small interactions that make up the tapestry of urban existence. My body settles into a comfortable position, paws tucked neatly beneath me in the pose that humans find so mysteriously appealing. A street musician has set up nearby, his guitar case open on the cobblestones to receive the appreciation of those who stop to listen. His fingers move with practiced ease across the strings, creating melodies that drift through the narrow street like visible things, touching everyone who passes. When he begins to sing, his voice has the slightly rough quality that speaks of cigarettes and late nights, of experiences distilled into music that can be understood without translation. The songs are familiar ones that have been performed in these streets for decades, their lyrics speaking of love and longing, and the peculiar beautiful melancholy that Paris inspires. People gather in a loose semicircle around the musician, their attention captured by the simple beauty of acoustic guitar and human voice. Some close their eyes to better absorb the music, their faces relaxing into expressions of appreciation and memory. Others sway slightly with the rhythm, unconscious movements that connect body to sound. A small child dances with the unself-conscious joy of the very young, spinning in circles until dizziness intervenes. The observers smile at this pure expression of what many of them feel, but would not display so openly. When the song ends, coins and small bills fall into the open guitar case, a rain of appreciation that the musician acknowledges with nods and smiles. He speaks briefly between songs, his words too soft to reach my distant position, but their meaning clear in the responsive laughter of his audience. These small connections between performer and listeners create a temporary community, a shared experience that will become a memory of Paris, carried home to places far distant. Such moments, ephemeral yet somehow timeless, form the true character of the city beyond its monuments and museums. As the musician begins another song, a group of pigeons descends nearby, their cooing creating a gentle counterpoint to the guitar. They move with the peculiar bobbing gait of their kind, heads nodding forward and back with each step in a rhythm all their own. An elderly woman emerges from a nearby building with a small bag of crumbs, her daily ritual of feeding these urban birds clearly anticipated by their gathered presence. She distributes her offering with careful attention, ensuring that even the more timid birds receive their share. Her kindness extends to a brief acknowledgement of my observing presence, a small nod between beings who share this corner of the city. The afternoon continues its gentle progression toward evening, the quality of light shifting subtly with each passing hour. Shadows lengthen across the cobblestones, their edges softening as the sun moves lower toward the horizon. The temperature begins its gradual decline from the midday peak, a change so subtle that only the most sensitive awareness would detect it. My whiskers register this slight cooling of the air, one of countless environmental shifts that my feline senses monitor without conscious effort. When the musician concludes his performance and begins to pack away his instrument, I too decide to continue my journey through the afternoon streets. Rising with unhurried grace, I stretch thoroughly before proceeding, each muscle extending to its limit before relaxing into readiness for movement. My path takes me deeper into the labyrinth of the Latin Quarter, toward places where the modern world seems more distant and the medieval origins of these streets more apparent. The narrower passages receive less direct sunlight now, their shadowed coolness a pleasant change after hours of warmth. I pass a small bookshop whose open door releases the incomparable scent of aging paper and binding glue, a fragrance that has remained unchanged for centuries. Through the window, I glimpse walls lined from floor to ceiling with volumes whose colorful spines create a mosaic of contained knowledge and imagination. The proprietor sits at a desk nearly hidden behind stacks of recent acquisitions, his attention absorbed in the pages before him. A cat much like myself rests on a cleared corner of the desk, her eyes meeting mine briefly in that moment of recognition that passes between kindred beings. Our silent greeting acknowledges our shared profession as guardians of quiet places, as companions to those who value contemplation. A small cafe occupies the corner where two ancient streets converge, its terrace filled with people engaged in the distinctly Parisian art of watching the world pass by. The metallic scrape of chairs against stone punctuates the murmur of conversation as new arrivals join those already seated. The rich aroma of espresso mingles with the sweeter scent of pastries arranged in the window display, temptations offered to passers-by. A waiter moves between tables with the efficient grace that comes from years of practice, balancing a tray of filled glasses with apparent effortlessness. His practiced movements follow pathways worn into memory through countless repetitions, a dance performed daily in the same space. Finding a perfect elevated position on a window ledge, I settle myself to observe this tableau of Parisian cafe culture. The stone beneath me retains the day's warmth, offering comfort as the air continues its gradual cooling. From this vantage point, I can watch the interactions of humans engaged in one of their most social activities, the shared consumption of food and drink that somehow transcends mere sustenance. Conversations flow around tables like invisible rivers, rising and falling in volume, occasionally punctuated by laughter or emphatic gestures. The rhythm of these exchanges follows patterns as old as language itself: questions and responses, stories and reactions, the basic currency of human connection. A young woman sits alone at a small table, her attention divided between the book open before her and the passing scene that occasionally draws her gaze. She sips her coffee with unhurried appreciation, clearly savoring both the bitter liquid and the luxury of unstructured time. When she turns a page, her fingers move with gentle reverence for the object in her hands, a touch that speaks of genuine love for literature. She occasionally glances in my direction, our eyes meeting briefly in mutual recognition of the other's quiet presence. Neither of us requires more acknowledgement than this momentary connection, both content in our parallel solitudes. The shadows continue their slow dance across the cobblestones as afternoon progresses with languid grace toward evening. The golden quality of light that Paris wears so beautifully intensifies, transforming ordinary scenes into moments of breathtaking beauty. Stone facades glow with captured sunlight, windows reflect burnished gold, and even the simplest objects become worthy of artistic attention. This magical transformation happens daily, yet never loses its power to inspire wonder in those fortunate enough to witness it. The cafe patrons turn their faces toward this illumination like flowers seeking sunlight, conversations pausing briefly in collective appreciation. When I decide to continue my journey, the movement from rest to motion happens with fluid continuity. My muscles respond to intention without apparent effort, a coordination refined through countless previous journeys through these same streets. I follow a route that will take me to one of my favorite evening locations, a path known through scent and sight, and the subtle magnetic sense that guides all cats through their territory. The cooling air carries new scents now, dinners being prepared, wine being opened, the distinctive fragrance of street lamps that will soon flicker to life as darkness approaches. These olfactory signals mark the transition between day and evening as clearly as the changing light. The golden light of late afternoon gradually deepens toward the amber hues of early evening, a transformation that changes the very character of the eternal city. The stones of Paris absorb this warm illumination and seem to glow from within, creating an atmosphere of timeless beauty that has inspired artists for centuries. Long shadows stretch across cobblestone streets like fingers reaching eastward, their edges softened by the quality of light that photographers call the magic hour. My pathway leads through these shifting patterns of radiance and shadow, each step placed with unhurried precision. I make my way toward Montmartre, where elevated positions offer perfect vantage points for observing the city's transition from day to evening. The journey requires navigating gradually steepening streets, a pleasant exertion that engages muscles warmed by a day of wandering. With each ascending block, the view expands behind me, revealing more of the city's distinctive roofscape of mansard roofs and chimney pots, of church spires and distant monuments. The air becomes slightly clearer at this higher elevation, carrying scents from throughout the city below the river's mineral essence, the countless restaurant kitchens preparing evening meals, the indefinable perfume that is Paris herself. Narrow staircases provide more direct routes upward between buildings that cling to the hillside in picturesque arrangements. These stone steps have been worn into shallow depressions by countless footsteps over centuries, their surfaces smooth beneath my careful paws. Flowering plants spill from window boxes and small gardens, adding splashes of color and sweet fragrance to the ascending pathway. Occasional benches provide resting places for humans making the same climb, their breathing often quickened by the exertion that I undertake with feline ease. From these resting spots, ever-expanding views of the city below offer rewards for the effort of ascent. The neighborhood changes character as I climb higher, the buildings becoming smaller and more closely nestled together. Montmartre retains the atmosphere of the village it once was before the city grew to embrace it, its winding streets following ancient pathways rather than imposed grids. Artists still maintain studios in this elevated quarter, continuing a tradition that has endured for more than a century. The scent of turpentine and oil paint occasionally drifts from open windows, mingling with the aroma of simmering garlic and herbs from small restaurant kitchens. Street musicians create gentle background melodies that float through the evening air, their notes seeming to linger longer in this rarefied atmosphere. As I near the summit, the imposing white domes of Sacré-Cœur come into view, gleaming with almost surreal brightness against the deepening blue of the evening sky. The basilica stands like a serene guardian overlooking the sprawling city, its pale stone capturing and reflecting the last direct light of day. Tourists gather on its steps to photograph the panoramic views, their excited conversations creating a multilingual tapestry of sound. I avoid these busier areas, preferring the quieter side streets where locals move with the unhurried pace of those navigating familiar territory. These less traveled routes offer the same spectacular vistas without the crowds, perfect for one who prefers observation to participation. I find an ideal spot on a low garden wall behind a small apartment building, a private vantage point that offers an unobstructed view across the cityscape. The stone retains the warmth of the day's sunshine, providing comfortable rest for muscles that have carried me up the considerable slope. From this elevation, Paris spreads below like a living map, its famous monuments visible as darker silhouettes against the lighter pattern of streets and buildings. The Seine winds its silvery path through the heart of the city, reflecting the changing colors of the evening sky in its flowing surface. The Eiffel Tower stands in distant prominence, its iconic shape unmistakable even from this remove. Settling myself into a position of perfect comfort, I arrange my limbs with the precise economy of movement that is the birthright of all cats. My breathing slows to match the tranquil mood of evening, deep and regular and completely content. The gentle rise and fall of my ribcage becomes a meditation on present moment existence, on the perfect sufficiency of simply being. My whiskers extend to their full length, sensitive instruments gathering data about the cooling air currents that bring news from throughout the city below. The tip of my tail occasionally twitches, the only external sign of my continued alert awareness within this state of profound relaxation. The sun now approaches the horizon, its direct light gradually replaced by the softer glow of approaching twilight. Colors shift across the panoramic view, buildings first gleaming gold, then amber, then deepening toward the mauves and purples that precede true evening. The first streetlights flicker to life below, creating constellations that echo the stars soon to appear overhead. Windows begin to glow with warm illumination as residents return home and lamps are lit, each one representing lives unfolding in countless variations across the city. These human patterns of evening activity have remained essentially unchanged for generations, a consistency that provides comfortable familiarity to one who has observed them through many seasons. From somewhere nearby, the delicious aroma of roasting chicken drifts on the gentle breeze, rich with herbs and the promise of satisfying nourishment. My sensitive nose distinguishes rosemary and thyme among the predominant scents, herbs that grow in window boxes throughout this hillside neighborhood. A restaurant kitchen door opens briefly, releasing a cloud of fragrant steam that temporarily intensifies these enticing smells. Though the scent stirs primitive hunting instincts, my well-fed state allows appreciation without urgency, a gastronomic enjoyment that requires no action. The evening air continues its gradual cooling. The temperature change registered by my sensitive skin beneath insulating fur. This cooling brings increased clarity to the atmosphere, distant details becoming more sharply defined as the day's heat haze dissipates. The massive form of Notre Dame can now be distinguished clearly despite its considerable distance, its distinctive twin towers and central spire silhouetted against the southeastern sky. Other church steeples punctuate the cityscape, marking neighborhoods developed around these centers of community and faith. The grand boulevards created during Haussmann's renovation cut straight paths through the otherwise organic growth of ancient streets, their precise geometry visible even from this elevation. As true dusk approaches, birds engage in their evening rituals of finding secure roosting places for the night. Their movements create brief flurries of activity among the trees and rooftops, accompanied by the quieter calls that differ from morning's enthusiastic chorus. These preparations follow ancient patterns encoded in avian instinct, behaviors as old as the species themselves. Swallows perform their aerial ballets against the darkening sky, catching insects in graceful swoops and dives that demonstrate extraordinary precision. Their agility inspires a moment of professional admiration from one who also values movement refined to its essential perfection. The first evening star appears in the deepening blue overhead, its solitary brightness soon to be joined by countless others as full night gradually embraces the city. This transitional time between day and night carries its own particular quality, a liminality that invites contemplation and quieter states of being. The diminishing light encourages inward focus, a natural shift toward reflective awareness rather than active engagement. My own consciousness follows this same pattern. External observations gradually replaced by internal sensations of comfort and contentment. The boundary between self and surroundings becomes pleasantly indistinct in this state of twilight meditation. From a nearby apartment, the gentle notes of a piano drift through a partially opened window. The musician plays softly, perhaps mindful of neighbors, creating a delicate soundscape that perfectly complements the visual beauty of emerging night. The melody follows a familiar pattern of classical composition, its structure providing both the pleasure of recognition and the surprise of subtle variations. These sounds weave themselves into the tapestry of evening, enhancing rather than disrupting the peaceful atmosphere that settles over the hillside. The music eventually concludes with a sequence of gently resolving chords that seem to express the same sense of completion that the ending day embodies. As full darkness gradually claims the city, Paris undergoes its final transformation of the day into a galaxy of earthbound stars. Streetlights create pathways of illumination that follow the organic patterns of ancient streets and the geometric precision of later boulevards. Monuments receive their evening illumination, their familiar forms highlighted against the night sky by carefully positioned lighting. The Eiffel Tower begins its hourly sparkle, thousands of lights creating a brief display of magical brilliance visible throughout the city. This dance of light lasts only minutes before returning to the steady illumination that will continue through the night, a momentary celebration of Parisian beauty that nonetheless occurs with such regularity that it becomes part of the city's dependable rhythm. From my elevated position, I watch this emergence of nighttime Paris with the appreciation of one who has witnessed this transition countless times, yet never tires of its beauty. The pattern of lights reveals the city's structure more clearly than daylight, highlighting the Seine's curving path and the major boulevards that radiate from central hubs. The darkness between these lines of light represents parks and gardens, the green spaces that provide necessary counterpoint to urban density. The surrounding hills appear as more concentrated clusters of illumination, communities that maintain their distinct identities while forming part of the greater whole. The air continues its cooling journey toward night, the temperature change now more noticeable as radiation from sun-warmed surfaces diminishes. This cooling brings a clarity to sense as well as sights, each aroma becoming more distinctly defined in the crisper atmosphere. The stone beneath me still retains significant warmth, a comfortable contrast to the coolness that now touches my fur. This pleasant sensation encourages continued rest, my body finding perfect contentment in this balance between supporting warmth and refreshing coolness. My breathing follows the unhurried rhythm of deep relaxation, each exhale releasing any remaining tension accumulated during the day's explorations. Stars now populate the sky in increasing numbers, their ancient light reaching Earth after journeys of incomprehensible distance. Though the city's illumination diminishes their visibility somewhat, the brighter stars and planets assert their presence against the urban glow. These celestial objects follow their own immutable patterns of movement, a cosmic dance whose choreography remains unchanged, while generations of earth-bound observers come and go. Their constancy offers a different perspective on time, making a single day in the life of a Parisian cat seem simultaneously significant and infinitesimal. This paradox requires no resolution, both truths coexisting perfectly in the present moment of awareness. When the night air eventually encourages movement again, I rise with the fluid grace that comes from muscles completely relaxed yet perfectly responsive to intention. Each limb extends in a thorough stretch before bearing weight, the pleasant sensation of reawakening traveling through my body in a gentle wave. My whiskers extend fully forward, gathering information about the changed environment that darkness has brought. The cooler air carries different scents, now the distinctive mineral smell of stone releasing its stored heat, the changing aromas of evening flowers whose fragrance intensifies at night, the indefinable scent of dew beginning to form as surfaces cool below the atmosphere's temperature. My descent from Montmartre follows different pathways than my ascent, routes chosen for their gentler slope and interesting sensory offerings. Narrow passages between buildings provide shortcuts known to few humans, perfect for one who navigates as comfortably in darkness as in light. My night vision transforms the shadowed world into one of subtle gradations of luminosity, each surface reflecting available light in ways invisible to human perception. This transformed landscape offers its own particular beauty, a monochromatic realm of texture and form where daytime colors have been replaced by an infinite palette of grays. My whiskers provide additional guidance, their sensitivity preventing contact with obstacles even in the deepest shadows. The neighborhood grows quieter as evening deepens toward night, the earlier bustle of homecoming and dinner preparation replaced by the more subdued activities of after-dinner hours. Windows that earlier revealed kitchen scenes now show families gathered in living rooms, their forms silhouetted against warm interior light. The sounds of television programs and conversation drift outward, fragments of domestic life briefly available to passing observation. These glimpses into human existence offer endless variation on common themes, each household creating its unique expression of universal patterns. The comfortable familiarity of these routines provides a background rhythm to my evening journey, a counterpoint to my own more solitary movements. The full emergence of night brings a different character to Parisian streets, a transformation more profound than the mere absence of daylight. The city's rhythm changes as business activities conclude and leisure pursuits take precedence, as necessary movements give way to chosen ones. The population visible on public thoroughfares shifts as well, younger people appearing in greater numbers as older residents retreat to domestic comfort. Music drifts from cafes and clubs, its volume and tempo generally increasing as the hour advances. These changes follow predictable patterns that vary by neighborhood and day of week, a complex urban choreography that I have observed through countless cycles. I make my way toward one of my preferred nighttime locations, a small square where a fountain provides both pleasant background sound and occasional refreshment. The journey takes me through gradually quieter streets, away from the more popular evening destinations, and toward residential areas where night brings increasing tranquility. My paws make no sound against the cobblestones, allowing silent passage that leaves the peacefulness undisturbed. The shadows between pools of streetlight offer perfect concealment, though few humans would notice my presence even in fuller illumination. This blending with the environment comes not through effort, but through the natural alignment of feline movement with the flow of the world. The square appears ahead, its central fountain a source of gentle music as water falls from one basin to the next in endless circulation. The surrounding buildings create a protected space that feels separate from the wider city, an urban room whose proportions offer perfect balance between enclosure and openness. Benches positioned around the perimeter stand mostly vacant now, occasional solitary figures reading or contemplating being the only human presence at this hour. Small trees in planters provide additional texture to the space, their leaves occasionally stirring in the intermittent breeze. The overall atmosphere invites lingering, a pause in movement that allows deeper appreciation of the night's subtle offerings. I find an ideal resting place on a low wall near the fountain, a position that allows observation of the entire square while remaining somewhat removed from potential notice. The stone has cooled significantly since sunset, but still offers more warmth than the surrounding air, a pleasant compromise for extended comfort. From this vantage point, I can watch the occasionally passing human while enjoying the relative solitude that night brings to this tucked-away corner of the city. My body settles into a position of perfect balance, paws tucked neatly beneath me and tail curved gracefully around my side. In this arrangement, I could remain motionless for hours should I choose, a living sculpture temporarily added to the square's permanent features. The fountain's gentle music creates an ideal background for nocturnal meditation, its continuous flow somehow both stimulating alertness and encouraging deeper relaxation. The sound contains countless variations within its consistent pattern, never exactly repeating yet always recognizable as itself. Droplets occasionally catch the streetlight's illumination, momentarily sparkling before returning to the collective pool. The scent of water mingles with that of flowering plants placed around the square's perimeter, creating an olfactory island of freshness within the city's more complex aroma. These sensory elements combine to create an environment perfectly suited for extended contemplation. My breathing gradually synchronizes with the rhythm of flowing water, each inhale and exhale following the fountain's gentle cadence. This unconscious alignment brings a deeper sense of connection to place, a merging of self with surroundings that transcends ordinary awareness. My muscles release any remaining tension accumulated during the day's journey, a surrender to gravity that feels like sinking into the very stone beneath me. Eyelids lower partially over eyes that continue to monitor the environment without active attention, a state of receptive awareness that excludes nothing yet requires no effort. This perfect balance between alertness and relaxation represents the quintessence of feline being, a state humans often strive for but rarely achieve. The square remains largely undisturbed as night deepens, its tranquility occasionally punctuated by passing footsteps that emerge from one street entrance and disappear into another. These transitory presences rarely pause long enough to disturb the peaceful atmosphere. Most humans at this hour being focused on destinations rather than intermediate spaces. A couple appears briefly, their quiet conversation creating a pleasant murmur that mingles with the fountain's music before fading as they continue their journey. Later, a solitary woman crosses the square slowly, her unhurried pace suggesting appreciation for this peaceful interlude within the urban landscape. She pauses briefly near the fountain, her face tilted toward the subtle play of water, before continuing onward with slightly lightened step. The night air continues its gradual cooling, the temperature change registered by my sensitive skin beneath insulating fur. This cooling brings increased clarity to sense as well as sounds, each aroma becoming more distinctly defined in the crisper atmosphere. The water from the fountain creates a zone of slightly increased humidity, a microclimate that softens the otherwise dry urban air. Occasionally, the breeze strengthens briefly, bringing more distant scents from neighborhoods beyond immediate perception, the river's mineral essence, bakeries beginning early morning preparations, the distinctive metallic aroma of the metro system, whose last trains continue their rounds. These olfactory messages provide information about the wider city's nocturnal activities, creating a map more detailed than any visual representation. Stars wheel slowly overhead in their eternal patterns, visible in the patch of sky framed by the surrounding buildings. Their movement becomes apparent only through extended observation, the gradual shifting of constellations marking the passage of hours more precisely than human timepieces. The waxing moon rises into this framed view, its partial illumination casting subtle shadows that add another dimension to the square's nighttime appearance. Moonlight brings a silvery quality, distinctly different from the warmer hues of artificial lighting, transforming ordinary surfaces into something slightly magical and removed from daylight perception. This natural illumination seems to reveal the essence of objects rather than merely their surfaces, a different category of seeing altogether. The fountain continues its gentle song unchanged by the advancing hour, water following the same paths with the consistency that only inanimate objects can maintain. The sound creates a continuous present moment, each droplet both unique and part of the unbroken flow that has continued since the fountain's creation and will persist long after all current observers have departed. This sense of continuation beyond individual experience brings a particular comfort, a recognition of belonging to something more enduring than single consciousness. My own awareness expands to include this broader time frame, personal existence temporarily connected to the longer rhythms of the eternal city. From somewhere in the distance, a church bell counts the midnight hour, its resonant tones traveling clearly through the cooler night air. The sound marks the official transition from one day to the next, though nature recognizes no such arbitrary divisions in the continuous flow of time. Other church bells join briefly in marking this human measurement, creating a cascading harmony that drifts across rooftops before fading into silence. These bells have sounded their regular intervals through centuries of Parisian life, their voices essentially unchanged, while countless generations have lived within hearing of their call. Their consistency offers another form of continuity, a dependable marker in the flowing river of urban existence. The deepening night brings increasing quiet to this residential quarter, windows gradually darkening as residents conclude their day's activities. The square becomes an island of gentle fountain music in a sea of urban stillness, its peaceful character intensified by the surrounding quiet. Occasional distant sounds a closing door, a passing vehicle, brief voices serve mainly to emphasize the prevailing tranquility rather than disrupt it. This quietude creates space for deeper awareness, for the subtle perceptions often obscured by daytime activity. My senses attune to this more refined level of observation, noting details that would be overwhelmed in busier hours. The temperature continues its gradual decline toward pre-dawn minimum, though the stone beneath me still offers moderate warmth absorbed during daylight hours. My fur provides perfect insulation, maintaining comfortable body temperature despite the cooler surroundings. This natural protection allows extended rest in conditions that would prove challenging to less adapted creatures. The pleasant contrast between cooling air against outer fur and maintained warmth beneath creates a gentle awareness of boundaries, of the threshold between self and environment. This awareness requires no analysis or response, simply another aspect of present moment existence to be experienced without judgment or action. As the night progresses toward its deepest hours, a different quality of stillness emerges across the city. The fountain's music becomes more prominent against the reduced background ambient sound, its consistent pattern creating a meditation focus for any who remain awake to appreciate it. The surrounding buildings seem to settle more deeply into their foundations, the ancient stones releasing the last of their stored warmth as they have done through countless night cycles. Even the occasional breeze moves with less urgency, gentle currents of air that carry the scents of night-blooming flowers and the earthy aroma of the Seine's continuous flow. This atmosphere encourages profound relaxation, a surrender to the restorative quiet that night provides. My own awareness gradually shifts toward a more internal focus, external observations becoming less distinct as consciousness turns toward the sensations of my physical being. The perfect comfort of my chosen position allows attention to settle into the simple pleasure of existence, the miraculous ordinary fact of embodied life. Breathing continues its unhurried rhythm, each cycle bringing renewed appreciation for this most fundamental process. Heartbeat provides a subtle background tempo, its steady percussion marking moments without conscious attention required. These autonomic functions continue their perfect coordination regardless of waking attention, a wisdom of the body that requires no intellectual direction. From this state of deep relaxation, the boundaries between waking and sleeping become pleasantly indistinct. Consciousness drifts between objective awareness and the more fluid realm of dreams, neither state claiming complete dominance. Images from the day's explorations occasionally resurface, transformed by this transitional awareness into new configurations that follow dream logic rather than waking causality. The fountain's continuous sound weaves itself into these drifting scenarios, sometimes appearing as different water sources or transforming into other rhythmic elements entirely. This hypnagogic state brings its own particular pleasure, a creative borderland where imagination and reality intermingle freely. The city continues its nocturnal existence around this small island of fountain music and feline contemplation. Most of its human inhabitants now surrendered to sleep, while other creatures claim more prominent roles in the overnight hours. Months make silent progress across tiled rooftops, their nighttime activities a continuation of behaviors unchanged for centuries of urban coexistence. Bats perform their aerial insect hunting with precision that rivals daytime swallows, their movements visible only as occasional darker flickers against the night sky. Even the trees seem to conduct different business during darkness, their photosynthesis suspended, while other essential processes continue without the sun's direct influence. This parallel nocturnal world operates by different rhythms, but with equal purpose to daytime activities. When awareness eventually returns to fuller wakefulness, the quality of night has shifted subtly toward the approach of dawn, though true morning remains hours distant. The stars have continued their slow procession across the visible patch of sky, some disappearing beyond building edges while others emerge from the opposite side. The moon has completed its arc and no longer appears within the framed view overhead. The air now carries its coolest scent, the pre-dawn minimum that precedes the gradual warming that sunshine will eventually bring. These changes register without requiring response, simply noted as part of the night's natural progression. I rise with unhurried grace after this extended period of rest, each muscle responding perfectly to intention after complete relaxation. The movement happens in fluid stages, first forelegs extending, then spine lengthening. Finally, hindquarters rising to complete the transition from repose to readiness. A thorough stretch sends pleasant sensations throughout my body, a gentle awakening of tissues prepared for renewed activity. The fountain continues its melodious background as I prepare to continue my nocturnal explorations, its sound having become so integrated with my awareness that its absence would be more notable than its presence. With silent steps, I take leave of the peaceful square, carrying its tranquility within me as I move toward new nighttime discoveries. The surrounding streets remain quiet, most windows dark behind shutters closed against the night air. My path takes me toward the gradually lightening eastern sky, though true dawn remains a distant promise beyond the current hour. The cooler air carries scents with crystalline clarity, each aroma distinct and traceable to its source with perfect precision. This olfactory richness creates a multi-layered map of the sleeping city. Information as valuable as visual perception for navigating the pre-dawn world. I find my way to a particular rooftop accessible via a series of strategically placed ledges and balconies, a route discovered through previous explorations and remembered with the precision that ensures successful navigation. Each leap is calculated perfectly, distances and landing surfaces assessed with the instant computation that makes feline movement appear both effortless and elegant. The final ascent brings me to a flat section of zinc roofing typical of Parisian buildings, a perfect platform for observing the city's transition from deepest night toward earliest morning. From this elevated position, the gradual lightening of the eastern horizon becomes more apparent, though the sun itself remains well below the visible edge of the world, settling into a comfortable position on the slightly angled surface. I arrange my body to take advantage of what little warmth the metal still retains. The rooftop offers an unobstructed view across neighboring buildings toward the gradually defining skyline, church spires and monument tops emerging as darker silhouettes against the slowly brightening background. Stars remain visible overhead and to the west, though those near the eastern horizon have faded into the lightening sky. The city sleeps on below, largely unaware of this daily transformation beginning above its collective consciousness. The tranquility of deepest night continues to hold sway over the streets and buildings, a peaceful interlude before the renewal of human activity. From this elevated perspective, I watch the infinitely subtle progression from night toward dawn, changes so gradual that only extended, patient observation reveals their constant movement. The eastern sky passes through indefinable gradations of darkness. each imperceptibly lighter than the last, yet eventually creating visible difference. Birds begin to stir in their nighttime roosts, subtle rustlings that precede their full awakening to greet the new day. The air carries changing scents as temperatures begin their slow climb from night's minimum, molecular movements increasing enough to release more volatile compounds into the atmosphere. These sensory messages contain the promise of the coming day while honoring the peaceful qualities of the departing night. As the eastern sky continues its patient journey toward daylight, I remain a silent witness to this eternal cycle of renewal. My breathing follows the unhurried rhythm that accompanies contemplative awareness, deep and regular and perfectly content. The gentle rise and fall of my ribcage matches the cadence of the sleeping city below, a synchronization that requires no conscious effort. My senses remain open to the subtle changes that mark this transitional time, receptive without judgment or analysis. This state of perfect presence, neither seeking nor avoiding any aspect of experience, represents the essence of feline being, a wisdom embedded in every cell through evolutionary refinement. The first birds begin their morning songs, tentative notes that will gradually build toward the full dawn chorus still to come. These earliest singers establish the foundation upon which the complete avian symphony will construct itself. Their pioneering voices claiming acoustic territory before the fuller competition for auditory attention. Their melodic patterns follow instinctual designs refined through countless generations, yet each individual bird adds subtle variations that express its unique embodiment of species characteristics. This beginning music creates another layer of transition between night and day, sound achieving what light has not yet fully accomplished. As I remain in peaceful observation of this gradual awakening, my own consciousness reflects the same measured transition. The deeper meditative state of night gradually yields to the more alert awareness that daylight naturally encourages, though both states contain elements of the other. This balance between relaxation and readiness, between internal focus and external attention, creates the perfect receptivity to present moment experience. No anticipation of future disturbs this complete acceptance of what is now unfolding. No clinging to past conditions creates resistance to emerging change. This flowing awareness moves in perfect harmony with the world's natural rhythms, a synchronization that brings effortless peace. The first human stirrings become occasionally visible in windows below, early risers whose activities anticipate the general awakening still to come. Lights appear briefly behind curtains, small beacons of renewed consciousness in the largely sleeping city. A baker emerges onto the street, his white clothing barely visible in the pre-dawn dimness as he prepares to receive deliveries for the day's production. His movements follow the measured pace of one who has begun countless days in the same fashion, efficiency born of repetition rather than hurry. The scent of coffee occasionally drifts upward, its distinctive aroma marking individual points of awakening consciousness throughout the surrounding buildings. The gradual lightening continues its patient progress across the sky, colors slowly emerging from the monochrome palette of deepest night. The faintest tinge of rose appears along the eastern horizon, a subtle harbinger of the more dramatic hues still to develop. This colorful transformation follows the same pattern each day, yet never produces exactly the same combination of shades and intensities. The variables of atmospheric conditions, seasonal angles of light, and particulate content of the air ensure that each dawn presents a unique variation on its timeless theme. My eyes register these subtle shifts in luminosity and color without requiring the verbal labels that human perception would impose. From my elevated rooftop position, I watch as the eternal city gradually emerges from darkness, its timeless beauty revealed anew with each day's beginning. The distinctive silhouette of Notre Dame becomes increasingly defined against the brightening sky, its reconstructed spire a testament to human determination to preserve what centuries have created. The Seine appears as a curving ribbon of deeper darkness that gradually takes on the first reflections of awakening light. Rooftops extend in every direction, their mansard angles and chimney pots creating the distinctive horizon line that defines Paris as uniquely itself. This view, seen by countless eyes throughout history, continues to inspire the same appreciation regardless of the century from which it is observed. As the eastern sky continues its transformation toward day, I remain in perfect stillness, absorbing the peaceful energy of this transition time. My body feels both substantial and weightless, connected to the physical world through gravity's embrace, yet somehow transcending mere materiality. Breathing continues its unhurried rhythm, each inhale bringing the changing sense of awakening Paris, each exhale releasing any tension before it can accumulate. The tip of my tail occasionally twitches, the only external sign of the alertness that remains present even in deepest relaxation. This balance between absolute rest and readiness for movement embodies the essence of feline existence, a wisdom carried in every cell. The rose tint along the horizon gradually intensifies and expands upward, claiming more of the eastern sky with each passing moment. Stars overhead fade into invisibility not through their own diminishment, but through the strengthening ambient light that overwhelms their constant presence. The air develops a different character as well, molecules energized by increasing temperature creating more movement and carrying more information to sensitive nostrils. Bird songs multiply and strengthen individual voices, joining the growing chorus that celebrates another cycle of renewal. These multisensory changes flow through my awareness without disturbing its fundamental tranquility, experiences registered without requiring response. As the first direct rays of sunlight prepare to appear, I rise from my hours of peaceful observation. The movement from absolute stillness to fluid motion happens without intermediate stages, a transition as natural as breathing. Each muscle responds with perfect coordination, the accumulated rest having restored complete vitality to tissues that have carried me through the previous day's explorations. I stretch thoroughly, front legs extending forward while spine curves upward in the archetypal feline pose that aligns every vertebra and relaxes every muscle group. The sensation sends pleasant ripples of awakening energy throughout my body, a natural preparation for renewed engagement with the active world. With the new day now clearly emerging, I make my way back down from the rooftop perch, following the same series of ledges and balconies that provided access hours earlier. Each landing is executed with precision that comes from complete body awareness, from knowing exactly the capabilities of muscles and the requirements of surfaces. The descent brings me gradually closer to the awakening street level, where human activity will soon resume its dominant position in the urban symphony. The scents of fresh bread now drift from multiple bakeries, their yeasty perfume an olfactory announcement of day's official beginning. The sounds of delivery vehicles and opening storefronts create a gradually increasing background to the continuing bird chorus. I find my way to a familiar garden courtyard accessible through a small gap beneath an ancient wooden door. A private space that offers perfect transition between night's solitary explorations and day's more populated experiences. Morning light has not yet reached this enclosed area, though the sky overhead shows the unmistakable blue of emerging day. A small fountain, much like the one in the nighttime square, provides gentle background music, its sound partially masked by awakening bird conversations in the single tree that occupies the center of the space. Stone benches line the walls, their surfaces still holding the cool touch of night. A few potted plants contribute their green essence to the enclosed atmosphere, their leaves occasionally stirring in the gentle morning air currents. Finding a perfect spot where emerging sunlight will eventually reach, I settle myself for one final rest before the full activity of day claims the city. The stone bench offers firm support beneath paws that have traveled many kilometers through the night's explorations. My body arranges itself in perfect comfort, muscles completely relaxed, yet ready to respond instantly should circumstances require. Breathing finds the familiar rhythm of deep contentment, each cycle bringing renewed appreciation for this peaceful interlude between night and full morning. My whiskers occasionally twitch in response to subtle air movements, sensitive instruments maintaining constant environmental awareness even in deepest rest. The courtyard gradually brightens as sunlight begins to reach its upper walls, the advancing illumination creating a slow-moving line of demarcation between night's lingering shadow and day's growing presence. The bird in the central tree increases the complexity of its song, intricate patterns of notes that seem to express appreciation for this daily renewal. Occasionally, human sounds drift over the surrounding walls, a window opening, brief conversation. The clatter of kitchenware signaling the wider awakening taking place throughout the neighborhood. These auditory elements combine with the fountain's music to create a gentle soundtrack for this transitional moment, a perfect accompaniment to the visual progression from shadow toward light. As sunlight continues its patient journey down the courtyard wall, my own consciousness drifts toward the borders of sleep. The night's activities having created natural readiness for daytime rest. The pleasant weight of my body against the stone creates a sensation of perfect security and comfort, permission to surrender temporarily to deeper realms of feline awareness. Eyelids grow heavier with each slow blink, gradually remaining closed for longer intervals. The fountain's gentle music weaves itself into emerging dreams, sometimes remaining recognizable and sometimes transforming into other rhythmic elements entirely. The boundary between waking perception and dream imagery becomes increasingly indistinct, a pleasant borderland where both states temporarily coexist. The last conscious perception before sleep claims complete dominance is of sunlight finally reaching my chosen resting place, its gentle warmth adding another layer of comfort to already perfect contentment. The sensation of light and warmth against closed eyelids creates a subtle reddish glow within darkness, a final transition from active awareness to complete surrender. Breathing slows to the deeper rhythm of sleep, muscles releasing any remaining tension as consciousness shifts to internal realms. The cycle has completed its full circle from morning, awakening through day's explorations and night's adventures to return again to rest as a new day establishes itself. In this perfect continuity, this eternal returning, lies the essence of feline existence. A life lived in complete harmony with both natural rhythms and the unique patterns of the eternal city. The silver cat of Paris sleeps now in perfect peace, body curled in the precise arrangement that conserves warmth and protects vulnerability. Dreams carry consciousness through landscapes both familiar and fantastical, experiences from waking life transformed by sleep's creative associations. The gentle rise and fall of breathing provides visible evidence of life, continuing its essential processes beneath the appearance of complete stillness. In this state of perfect rest, renewal happens at cellular levels, energy restored for adventures yet to come when wakefulness eventually returns. The fountain's music creates a constant background to these unseen journeys, its gentle rhythm a connection between internal and external worlds. And so the cycle continues, day following day, in the eternal rhythm that governs all existence. The silver cat remains a constant presence through these transitions, a quiet observer of humanity's grander movements and intimate moments alike. Neither fully wild nor truly domestic, this feline citizen of Paris creates a life perfectly adapted to urban existence while maintaining connection to instincts refined through evolutionary time. The ancient city and the timeless cat complement each other perfectly, each embodying a particular form of wisdom, one expressed through architecture and history, the other through movement and presence. Together they continue their dance through days and seasons, through sunshine and rain, through the endless cycles that define life in this place of beauty and history. As sleep deepens, conscious thought gives way to pure sensation, to the simple pleasure of existence without narrative or reflection. The silver cat's body becomes heavier against the sun-warmed stone, muscles completely surrendered to gravity's gentle embrace. Breathing follows the slow, deep rhythm of profound rest, each exhale releasing any remaining awareness of separation between self and surroundings. In this state of perfect peace, the boundaries between individual consciousness and the wider world become pleasantly indistinct. The fountain's continuous music weaves itself through dreams, creating patterns of sound that need no interpretation or analysis. Time itself seems suspended in this realm between moments, neither past nor future claiming attention from the perfect sufficiency of now. The courtyard remains a protected island of tranquility as morning advances beyond its walls, the surrounding buildings creating a sanctuary of relative quiet within the awakening city. Sunlight continues its gradual progression across the stone surfaces, warming the air and encouraging the small plants to turn their leaves toward this essential nourishment. The bird in the central tree occasionally adds brief melodies to the fountain's constant background music, spontaneous expressions of avian contentment in this shared space. These gentle sounds flow through the sleeping cat's awareness without disturbing rest, familiar elements that confirm the security of chosen territory. The scent of coffee and fresh bread drifts over the surrounding walls, olfactory evidence of human morning rituals well underway beyond this private garden. Dreams flow through feline consciousness like water through the fountain, continuous yet never exactly repeating. Images from explorations transform and combine in new configurations that follow sleep's logic rather than waking causality. The river appears with fish swimming through air above its surface. Birds converse in human language while people communicate in melodious chirps. These impossible scenarios create no dissonance within dream consciousness, each accepted as completely natural within its context. Underlying these shifting scenes remains the constant sensation of perfect comfort and security, the physical reality of sun-warmed stone and protected space providing foundation for these imaginative journeys. The sleeping cat's whiskers occasionally twitch in response to dream stimuli, these sensitive instruments maintaining their connection to both internal and external information. The tip of the silver tail moves slightly from time to time, perhaps reflecting dream chasing or other activities being experienced within sleep's realm. These minimal movements are the only visible signs of the rich experiences occurring beneath the appearance of complete stillness. To human observers, a sleeping cat appears to be merely resting. Only another feline would recognize the subtle indications of dream state adventures. This private interior life continues beneath the serene exterior, dual realities coexisting with perfect harmony. As morning advances toward midday, the courtyard gradually fills with more direct sunlight, the angle changing as the sun continues its arc across the Parisian sky. The warmer air carries enhanced scents from the potted plants, the sharp green of rosemary, the sweeter notes of flowering jasmine, the earthy aroma of soil warmed by sunshine. These intensified fragrances drift through the sleeping cat's awareness, incorporating themselves into dreams while simultaneously providing information about the external world's changing conditions. The fountain continues its gentle music unchanged by advancing hours, water following identical paths with the consistency that only inanimate objects can maintain. This constant sound creates a backdrop against which all other sensory experiences arrange themselves, a grounding continuity through sleeping and waking states alike. The depth of sleep gradually begins its natural transition toward lighter rest, consciousness slowly drifting upward from the deeper realms of pure being. This movement happens with the same unhurried pace that characterizes all natural feline rhythms, a gradual shift without urgency or arbitrary boundaries. Dreams become less abstract and more connected to physical sensations, the warmth of sunlight against fur, the solid support of stone beneath relaxed muscles, the gentle touch of occasional breeze across sensitive whiskers. These sensory anchors gradually re-establish the connection between consciousness and tangible surroundings, a bridge between internal and external realities. Breathing maintains its slow, deep pattern, while awareness begins its gentle return journey. Eyelids occasionally flutter slightly, brief moments of visual connection with the external world interrupting the darkness of closed-eye rest. These glimpses provide updated information about the courtyard's condition, the increased brightness, the slightly altered shadows, the occasional butterfly passing through the sunlit air. Each visual sample is briefly registered before eyes close again, sleep still claiming priority over full wakefulness. The transitional state between complete sleep and alert awareness brings its own particular pleasure, a liminal space where both conditions temporarily coexist. This borderland consciousness allows simultaneous appreciation of restful surrender and gentle reawakening, neither state fully dominating the other. The courtyard has become a perfect capsule of midday tranquility, its enclosed walls creating a microclimate of warmth and stillness. The air moves only occasionally in gentle currents that stir leaves without disrupting the overall sense of perfect calm. Sunlight now reaches the entire space, leaving no corners in shadow and warming all surfaces to create a uniformly comfortable environment. The fountain continues its gentle background music, water droplets occasionally catching light to create momentary rainbows before returning to the circular pool. Time seems to move differently within this protected space, its passage marked by the subtle shifting of light rather than mechanical measurement. This atmosphere perfectly supports the transitional state between sleeping and waking, a gentle container for consciousness gradually returning to fuller awareness. When eyelids finally open more permanently, the returning visual information confirms what other senses have already registered about the changed environment. The courtyard appears in full daylight, colors more vivid and details more sharply defined than during the earlier transitional glimpses. The central tree's leaves show their precise shapes and varied green tones against the blue sky visible above the enclosing walls. The stone surfaces reveal their texture of countless tiny mineral components catching light from slightly different angles. The water in the fountain displays its continuous movement more clearly, each droplet visible in its journey from higher to lower basin. These visual details flow into awakening consciousness without requiring analysis or response, simply registered as elements of the present moment's perfect composition. The sleeping cat's body now begins its own gradual awakening, muscles receiving renewed communication from a brain transitioning toward fuller consciousness. The process begins with subtle internal adjustments before manifesting as visible movement heart rate increasing slightly. Blood flow enhancing to extremities, neural pathways becoming more active between sensory organs and cognitive centers. These invisible preparations create readiness for eventual movement while allowing continued enjoyment of perfect relaxation. The pleasant weight of complete rest gradually transforms into the equally pleasant sensation of potential energy, of physical capacity renewed through adequate restoration. This transition from passive to potential active state happens without hurry or arbitrary deadlines, another example of the natural wisdom embedded in feline physiology. When movement finally begins, it starts with the smallest adjustments, an ear rotating slightly toward an interesting sound, whiskers extending to gather additional tactile information, the tip of the tail acknowledging returned conscious control with a brief twitch. These minimal expressions of renewed animation gradually expand to include a deep inhale that fills lungs more completely than sleep's shallower breathing, eyes opening fully to absorb the courtyard's midday appearance, paws extending slightly as muscles prepare for eventual weight bearing. The silver coat catches sunlight as small shifts in position create changing patterns of illumination across individual hairs. These preparatory movements happen with unhurried appreciation for the pleasant sensations they create, each small stretch and adjustment enjoyed for its own sake rather than rushed toward some future purpose. The transition from complete rest to sitting position happens with the fluid grace that makes feline movement appear effortless despite its complex coordination. Muscles respond to intention with perfect synchronization, joints articulating through precisely the right sequence to transform the horizontal relaxation of sleep into the vertical alertness of waking attention. This rearrangement of physical form happens without apparent thought or effort, the body's intelligence requiring no conscious direction to find optimal positioning. Once upright, paws tucked neatly beneath on the sun-warmed stone, the newly awakened cat takes time to observe the courtyard from this changed perspective, noting any differences that the advancing day has brought to this familiar territory. The renewed alertness brings heightened appreciation for environmental details, each sensory input crisp and meaningful after the softened awareness of sleep. A thorough grooming follows this positional adjustment, tongue and teeth attending to fur with methodical precision. This ritual serves multiple purposes beyond mere cleanliness, redistributing protective oils through the silver coat, removing any collected debris from night and morning explorations, stimulating skin circulation after extended rest, and re-establishing the scent profile that identifies individual territory. Each area receives appropriate attention in traditional sequence, the process itself a form of moving meditation that further enhances the transition from sleep to full wakefulness. The sensation of tongue against fur creates pleasant feedback, both tactile and proprioceptive information, confirming the body's boundaries and condition. This self-maintenance requires no conscious planning or analysis, the sequence embedded through evolutionary refinement and individual habit. With grooming complete and full wakefulness established, attention turns to the courtyard's offering of midday peace before eventual continuation of Parisian explorations. The fountain's music seems somehow brighter in full consciousness, each note distinct yet contributing to the overall harmonic effect. The sun's warmth penetrates more deeply into rested muscles, encouraging extended appreciation of this protected space before venturing into more active territories. The scents of the small garden carry information about the progression of day, about the activities taking place beyond the enclosing walls, about the weather conditions that will influence afternoon journeys. All these sensory inputs combine to create a complete environmental assessment that requires no conscious analysis, the information simply absorbed and integrated into intuitive understanding. From somewhere beyond the courtyard walls comes the distant sound of church bells marking the noon hour, their melodious tones drifting through Parisian air to reach even this secluded garden. The sound creates momentary connection to the wider city and its human rhythms, a reminder of the larger context within which this peaceful interlude exists. The silver cat's ears rotate slightly to better capture these musical vibrations, the only visible response to this temporal announcement. For one who measures time through natural cycles rather than mechanical divisions, the bells represent an interesting cultural phenomenon rather than a meaningful marker. Their eventual fading leaves the courtyard in renewed silence briefly before the fountain's gentle music reclaims acoustic prominence. The midday sun now stands at its zenith, casting minimal shadows and filling the courtyard with maximum illumination. This peak lighting reveals details sometimes hidden in angled morning or evening illumination, the subtle colors in apparently monochrome stones, the complex patterns in tree bark, the minute rainbow refractions in water droplets. The air itself seems to hold stillness differently at this hour. Molecules energized by maximum solar input creating a particular quality that occurs only at this specific point in the day's progression. These specialized characteristics of midday bring their own form of beauty, a direct clarity that contrasts with the softer ambiguity of transitional hours. The silver cat observes these phenomena with the appreciation of one who has witnessed countless such cycles, yet finds perpetual freshness in their recurrence. A butterfly enters the courtyard's airspace, its apparently random flight creating patterns of movement that contrast with the fountain's predictable flow. The delicate creature pauses briefly on a flowering plant, wings opening and closing with hypnotic rhythm as it extracts nectar from colorful blossoms. Its presence adds another layer of animation to the otherwise relatively static midday tableau, a reminder of nature's persistence even within urban settings. Though primitive instincts register this moving object, the well-fed observer makes no attempt to chase or capture, content with visual appreciation rather than hunting behavior. The butterfly eventually continues its aerial journey, disappearing over the courtyard wall to seek additional flowering resources elsewhere in the city. When the decision to resume exploration finally forms, the transition from rest to motion happens with characteristic feline fluidity. Each muscle group activates in perfect sequence, transforming the static sitting position into dynamic capability without apparent effort. The sensation of this awakened vitality brings its own pleasure, a celebration of physical capability renewed through adequate rest. Stretching extends this enjoyment, each limb reaching its maximum extension before returning to functional position. Claws briefly emerge to engage with the stone's surface before retracting into protective sheaths, their momentary appearance a reminder of evolutionary heritage preserved. Even in urban adaptation, these preparatory movements flow together in seamless choreography, the body's intelligence requiring no conscious direction to find optimal readiness. With one final appreciative glance at the peaceful courtyard that has provided perfect midday rest, the silver cat approaches the same gap beneath the ancient wooden door that permitted earlier entry. The passage requires momentary compression of body through the confined space, whiskers providing precise measurement to ensure successful navigation. Beyond lies the now fully awakened street, its character transformed by advanced day from the quiet pre-dawn territory previously explored. New scents, sounds, and activities await discovery, the afternoon city offering different opportunities and challenges than its morning or evening manifestations. The contrast between the courtyard's protected tranquility and the street's dynamic energy creates perfect counterpoint, both environments appreciated for their distinct qualities. The silver cat of Paris emerges onto sun-warmed cobblestones, moving with unhurried confidence from private sanctuary into public thoroughfare. Whiskers extend fully forward to gather information about this changed environment. Ears rotate to capture the various sounds that create the distinctive symphony of Parisian afternoon. The transition happens without hesitation or anxiety, each territory recognized as simply another aspect of the comprehensive urban landscape that constitutes home. The day continues its measured progression toward evening, the cycle of exploration and rest ready to repeat with infinite variations on its essential theme. This rhythm of engagement and withdrawal, of activity and contemplation, represents the perfect balance that defines feline existence in the eternal city. And so the story of a single day unfolds through feline perception, ordinary moments transformed through careful attention into extraordinary awareness. The silver cat continues its journey through Parisian streets and hidden places, through sunlight and shadow, through solitude and proximity, through all the countless experiences that constitute a life fully inhabited. The city itself becomes both background and partner in this ongoing dance of existence, its ancient stones and flowing river, its quiet corners and bustling boulevards all contributing to the rich tapestry of sensory information available to one who moves through the world with perfect presence. This continuous unfolding requires no destination or purpose beyond itself, the journey being both means and end, process and completion simultaneously. As human consciousness drifts toward sleep listening to this feline tale, perhaps something of this quality of attention transfers across the species boundary. The invitation to notice ordinary moments with extraordinary awareness, to appreciate sensory information without constant analysis, to find contentment in present experience rather than perpetual striving. These possibilities flow through the shared story as gentle suggestions rather than explicit instructions. The silver cat's perfectly inhabited day becomes a template for human consideration, a reminder of alternative ways of experiencing the world that remain available beneath layers of complexity and distraction. This reminder comes not through direct teaching, but through the simple recounting of a different mode of being, one that has coexisted alongside humanity throughout our shared history. The breathing of the listener gradually slows to match the unhurried rhythm of the narrative, each exhale releasing unnecessary tension as attention settles more deeply into the story's flow. Muscles relax into supporting surfaces as mental activity gradually shifts from analytical processing toward receptive awareness. The boundary between hearing a story and entering its experiential realm becomes pleasantly indistinct, imagination creating multisensory immersion beyond mere words. This transition happens without effort or direction, a natural response to narrative that invites deeper consciousness rather than stimulating surface attention. The silver cat's Parisian journey becomes a shared experience across species and space, a bridge between different forms of awareness united by the universal experience of embodied existence. As sleep approaches more closely, consciousness drifts between the story's Parisian setting and the listener's own circumstances, these different realities temporarily coexisting without contradiction. The silver cat's peaceful courtyard might briefly transform into the listener's bedroom before returning to fountain and cobblestones. The sounds of Paris might intermingle with the actual ambient sounds surrounding the resting human. These transitions between narrative and immediate reality create no disturbance, both environments equally valid within the borderland consciousness that precedes sleep. The story continues its gentle unfolding within this receptive awareness, words becoming direct experience rather than symbolic representations requiring translation. The final transition into sleep happens with the same fluid continuity that characterizes the silver cat's movements through Parisian territory. No distinct boundary marks the moment when listening becomes dreaming, when external narrative transforms into internal experience. The story simply continues its flow from one state of consciousness into another, its images and sensations accompanying the listener across the threshold between wakefulness and sleep. The Silver Cat's explorations become the beginning framework for the listener's own dream journeys, a starting point from which personal unconscious material will elaborate unique variations. This seamless transition represents the perfect completion of the sleep story's purpose. Words ultimately dissolving into the direct experience they were designed to facilitate. Sleep deepens as the narrative continues its gentle presence with an unconscious awareness, specific words becoming less important than the overall rhythmic quality they create. The Silver Cat's Parisian day becomes a template for the dream explorations that constitute sleep's territory, a foundation upon which individual experience constructs its own particular architecture. The Eternal City transforms into personal landscapes that carry emotional significance beyond geographical reality. Yet something of the original story's essence remains the quality of unhurried attention, the appreciation of sensory detail, the perfect balance between activity and rest. These elements infuse the dreamscape with their particular character while adapting to the sleeper's unique consciousness. And so the sleep story achieves its ultimate purpose. Words giving way to direct experience as waking awareness surrenders to sleep's deeper wisdom. The Silver Cat of Paris continues its eternal explorations within the dreaming mind, a guide whose presence gradually fades as the sleeper's own unconscious material elaborates its necessary patterns. The narrative that began as external stimulus becomes internal resource, its explicitly articulated images yielding to the implicit knowing that constitutes the dream state's particular form of intelligence. This transfer from conscious to unconscious awareness completes the cycle that the story initiated, the journey from external words to internal experience mirroring the cycles of day and night, activity and rest, that structure both feline and human existence. In the deepest realms of sleep, where even dreams dissolve into the fundamental restoration that constitutes sleep's essential purpose, perhaps some quality of the Silver Cat's perfect presence remains, not as narrative or image, but as embodied wisdom, as the cellular knowledge that complete surrender to present experience brings its own form of transcendence. This essence requires no articulation or recognition, its influence operating beneath the level of conscious awareness. The sleeper experiences only the profound rest that such surrender facilitates, the complete release of unnecessary tension that allows mind and body to conduct their restorative processes without interference. The Silver Cat story has now fully transformed from explicit telling to implicit knowing, from external narrative to internal resource.